Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are joined by Danny Wilson, who is S&C coach and the co-founder of Boxing Science. So, Danny, thank you for taking the time and sorting the technical issues out for us.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Andy. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure. So, I've really enjoyed watching your new centre, which we'll get on to later on. But can you tell me a bit about where you're from and how you got into this area?
Yeah, so my name's Danny Wilson. I'm a strength and conditioning coach based in Sheffield. I first started in strength and conditioning around 10 years ago. I was a student that was interested in sport. I was doing sports science at Sheffield University. But I never knew what I wanted to do from a very early age. I knew that I wanted to be in sport, but I always got told, you're not going to make any money at sport. The only thing that you can do is be a PE teacher or a sports coach, and that's not the right way to go and everything like that. So I didn't know really what I wanted to do, but I really had passion. So like when I was in college, I always kept my options open. I did media studies, did business studies, which has actually helped me out today. But I also did BTEC sport. Part of that BTEC sport, I did a lot of coaching, a lot of hands-on, and that's the stuff that I thrived in. So when I was picking my degree at Sheffield University, I went into sports science with performance coaching and really wanted the coaching part, but not knowing much about strength and conditioning at that point and not knowing really where I wanted to go. And I was a little bit, unmotivated, didn't really have much direction going off at that time. But we did a work placement and I thought that I might go and be a nutritionist, personal trainer, or a PE teacher. I wanted to work with a certain level of PE. I didn't want to go straight into like schools or primary schools. I wanted to work at like an A level standard where they have a little bit like that passion like I had. But when I were actually in that role, I realised that it wasn't for me whatsoever, and I needed to do something where what I enjoyed. And it was like a little bit of a light bulb moment in my life where I went from maybe the student that was just floating through university, enjoyed going out and seeing my mates and everything like that, not really thinking about the real world, what I'm actually going to do after university. But after that work placement, I was like, right, I've got to do something that I enjoy, something that I've got a passion for. And I've always been keen in the gym, whether that's trying to train like Rocky or trying to get as big as Arnold Schwarzenegger. I always had like passion when I was growing up, and that sort of like getting in the gym and lifting weights. So I naturally started going towards strength and conditioning. And around about that same point, I was sort of getting into boxing. I started following Kell Brook. I started watching the fights with Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. And my friend, best friend, and he basically said, you need to watch this guy called Alex Ariza, who was a strength and conditioning coach for Manny Pacquiao. And I always enjoyed like the Rocky films and trying to train like Rocky and everything like that. And as soon as I saw Alex Ariza training Manny Pacquiao, I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a strength and conditioning coach. I want to train boxers. But at that point, there wasn't much strength and conditioning going off in boxing. There wasn't, and probably still isn't, like a structured job in strength and conditioning for boxing, except from like at GB boxing. So the opportunities weren't there. So I went more down the traditional route. I started interning at Sheffield University, just with the university students, and at Sheffield United Football Club with like juniors, with the academy from under 8s all the way through to under 16s. And I just immersed myself in strength and conditioning, whether that was studying from dissertation, going out and testing Sheffield Eagles rugby league team, working at Sheffield United 2-3 nights a week, and then getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to do an internship at 7 o'clock till 1 o'clock at the university. So it was just jam-packed straight into strength and conditioning. And then from there, just started picking up different experiences. My links with Sheffield Eagles got stronger. I started working with first team, under 18s and 16s. I had a brief spell at Chesterfield Football Club. Also went in the first team at Sheffield United. And but my passion was still with boxing, and I was just waiting for that opportunity. And them kind of doors started opening when Kell Brooks started training at Sheffield Hallam University, started training with Dave Hember and Alan Ruddock, and that showed me that, right, this, strength and conditioning is going to become bigger in boxing, bigger part in boxing. I think Kell was one of the first athletes to in boxing to really start taking part in strength and conditioning. So they was right at the top end, and they had the experience and the knowledge to work at that top end. I had to start right. You still got me there?
Yeah, you're back on.
Yeah, sorry, I'm low battery. I'll have to put it on charge in a second. More technical issues. So I had to start at the grassroots, and I was in the gym. And this were about late 2012. I was in the gym at Sheffield Hallam University, and there was a boxer there, student boxer, and I basically offered my services to him to take him through his program, start coaching him out of shifts. So like at Hallam, like I said, I worked on Wednesday mornings from 7 o'clock in the morning till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I started training him out of hours, so like Tuesday and Thursday mornings, going above and beyond to start working in boxing. And then from there, I met his coach, Brendan Warburton, who's the head coach at Sheffield City ABC. And he said, I've got a couple other guys that I want to train with you. And then I had a professional heavyweight called Dave Howe. He started training with me. So it started kind of building from just offering my services to that student boxer from there, in the gym. And then, just from there, from about 2013, I was doing all my services for free, along with a Saturday morning, boxing, Saturday we called combat conditioning. It was open for MMA athletes, jiu-jitsu, but mainly boxers came to that program. And that was like £3.50 a head. It ranged from 3 athletes at the start, and then suddenly started getting 10, 15, even 20 athletes coming through the doors. But that was quite random. Like you might see a lad 1 week and then not be in the gym for another 3 weeks or something like that. And it was only 1 session a week. So I knew that it had to grow into something a lot bigger. And then, so what we did from there, sorry, I'm going on, I'm going on a little bit now, but what we did from that combat conditioning session, we had a lot of people interested, and we had an idea of how to train boxers, but we didn't know the standards. We didn't know what influences performance. We didn't know what is strong.
Danny? Who's the we?
Myself and Alan were mainly working on it. When we were looking at developing a program, we didn't know, for example, a counter movement jump. If a boxer jumps 35 centimeters, that's pretty average for a normal athlete, but for a boxer that might be okay, that might be good. So we didn't know where people were sitting in terms of like physical performance values. So what we did for my masters, I did a testing battery, boxing science testing battery, where we recruited about 35 athletes, amateurs, junior and senior athletes, and we created standards from there. So we did counter movement jump, squat jump, yo-yo tests to test their fitness. We did punch force as well with the med ball punch throw, and from that we got the research. We had more of an idea of where to take the program, but we also gave the athletes feedback, the strengths and areas for improvement and how to improve that. And the athletes that came back in for the feedback session actually started training with us. So started doing more paid work, doing a cluster of 5 or 10 boxers twice a week, and then the tests at the start of camp and the test at the end of camp to see how much they improved. And then from there, it was just word of mouth. We started getting more professional boxers through the door. We had Jordan Gill, who's still with us today. He was probably the first kind of high profile professional boxer that I worked with. He was very in the early stages, and then he was at the Ingle Gym with the likes of Kid Galahad, Kell Brook, Lee Wood, Atif Shafiq, and that the improvement in Jordan made others kind of realise, like, right, we should get on this program. So I started working with Kid Galahad, and I started working with Kell Brook for the Golovkin fight in September 2016. So I went from we started boxing science in about 2014, and we started doing that testing and everything like that. Within about two and a half years, I was working in one of the biggest fights in world boxing with Kell Brook and Golovkin. So really, that is the start of the journey, and you've got to that peak, that pinnacle, and I'll probably see that a few more times in my career with athletes that I work with. I've got some talented athletes, but them nights don't come around often when you're in a mega fight like that. But that happened within the 2.5 year period. And once you work at that level and work with that kind of level athlete, and you do a decent job, then that's what starts attracting the other athletes do. So really, I wouldn't really say what the journey, because obviously we've got a lot more things to talk about, talking about the journey from boxing science and everything like that. But really, that is the main part of the journey, getting from working with a student boxer, building up some interest, doing some testing and research, start building the program to a point where you're attracting one of the best boxers in the world to your program. And then after that, it should be pretty easy to start attracting people to buy your programs online and everything like that. So
yeah, no, that is amazing to do it in such a short period. You're going from £3.50 sessions to, as you say, competing with Golovkin, who at that time was probably considered pound for pound number one, wasn't he? Really?
Yeah. It was right up there. Yeah.
So in terms of that, then, so like, do you think that from that perspective, why do you think no one was doing it before you?
In boxing. Well, it were a challenge. It were a challenge to get all them people on board. So people will have tried before, and there were a lot of people doing some sort of strength conditioning. You don't have to be UKSA accredited or doing Olympic lifting or doing heavy squats to call it strength conditioning. So it wasn't like I was the first person to it, but they just needed that structure and that research in there to make it legitimate, and also the awareness as well. And I don't like I said, there were a lot of people like kind of doing it, but there wasn't many boxers. Sorry, I'm losing the word in here, but there was quite a few strength conditioning coaches in the business, but not every boxer had a strength conditioning coach. So what has happened over the last few years is there's been a build-up of awareness where now every boxer is doing some sort of strength conditioning.
Yeah.
And it's looking more like traditional strength conditioning, where they're doing the deadlifts, they're doing squats, they're doing weights in the proper way. They're not just doing bodybuilding exercises or thousands of sit-ups. There's more of an awareness there.
Yeah.
And I think I feel that boxing science had a big impact with the stuff that they're putting online, but then social media has a massive impact with athletes that are doing the training. People like to emulate like the heroes or people that they look up to. If they see a world champion like Kell Brook doing it, then they'll want to do it as well. So it's just take a lot of time as well. There's no central governing body to make sure that everything's in place for like strength conditioning for boxing, and especially professional. You know, the British Boxing Board of Control, they just deal with the fights and regulations and stuff like that. They're not bothered about how they're training in terms of like doing strength conditioning, everything like that. That's their responsibility. There's no like finances added to, like, you know, you see the UFC Performance Institute where all the UFC athletes got access to the top strength conditioning coaches in the country and in the world. There isn't something like that in boxing, and maybe we're about 5 or 10 years away from doing something like that. and it's a little bit behind other sports such as like football and rugby, but they've got big clubs, big organisations that are investing a lot of money, hiring the right people, getting the right amount of equipment to be able to do that top level work. So it's not, a lot of people like blame the old school coaches and the traditional training methods, but really it's going to be slower because it's not as organised as other sports, and it's not got the finances invested into creating training facilities and training programs as well. So it's improving a lot. It's improved a lot since since 2012 when I started working with that student boxer, and it'll continue to keep getting better and better. And that's the reason why at Boxing Science we try and share as much knowledge and as information as we can to help elevate the training standards of boxing and have an impact on the sport.
Yeah, no, I think it's really good. It's a good point you think you make about the UFC. I suppose the UFC is almost like a team in its own sense, that it's one management company. Whereas boxing, because there's different coaches, there's different groups, like you probably have got different promoted fighters within your group, and that maybe make more conflict. I don't know, do you think that has an impact?
Yeah, and they've monopolised the market in MMA. Every athlete wants to go and fight for the UFC because that's where the most money is, that's where the most exposure is. Whereas in boxing, you can box for Matchroom, you can box for Queensberry, you can box for PBC in America and Top Rank and still earn the same amount of money. So there's a big risk involved if, let's say, if Matchroom Boxing wants to set up a performance institute here, and they might put in £50,000, £100,000 worth of training facilities into a boxer that might end up leaving them and going elsewhere. So it's a big risk for these promotional companies to do. And yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I think that something needs to be set up. Something needs to be set up in terms of like creating them professional standards. But hopefully we can be sitting here in 5 or 10 years' time and be happy that we've done something. I'm wanting to do more in terms of like research. We've got a good team here. We've got Dr. Alan Ruddock, that is one of the best sports scientists in the country. We've got Lee Rickards, who's a fantastic nutritionist. He works at Sheffield United and is doing more stuff for Boxing Science now. We've got our assistant S&C coach, Kieran O'D, who's very keen and is getting stuck into the research. So, we've got plenty of opportunities to do it. We've got some good people that are passionate about the sport. Now we've got the Boxing Science Performance Centre. We've got all the facilities to be able to do it. So hopefully we can get something set up where we're going to be doing more research, sharing that and elevating the sports science standards in boxing.
Yeah, no, it does look great on that. I mean, was that a competition with the social media side? Like you've got thousands of followers.
Yeah.
Is that something that you consciously decided was going to help with marketing, or was it just something you organically did?
I'm just putting my stuff on charge, so I'm sorry that I'm walking about. I'm putting my iPad on charge. Yeah, so you know what? When I first started in doing like online work, that was very, very early for me. Hold on, let me get this on charge, and then I can concentrate on what I'm saying.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so what were we saying with social media? Yeah, so I actually started the social media journey before Boxing Science. I actually had a blog called Wilson Strength, where I put on a range of different articles just based off my kind of training thoughts. Some of it was a little bit ill taste, where I was like taking the mick out of people that different training methods and stuff like that. And looking back, it's quite funny and probably something that I wouldn't put out now. or like saying like doing an article on people that squat half depth and saying that they sit on the seats like Westlife, when they're singing on the tall seats. So I got like somebody half squatting next to somebody next to Westlife, and it was stupid, but but I actually put on quite a lot of things, and I went through a very up and down time where some opportunities weren't going right, things in my personal life weren't going right as well, and I started reflecting on a lot of things and become quite a reflective character through that time. And it were almost like keeping a bit of a diary. So I'd reflect on what I've learned over a 6-month or 12-month period, and it elevated my writing skills. It did something, a little bit of something from my profile. I got quite a few different followers from it, but really it got me in a bit of a mindset of not being afraid of putting stuff out there. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with when they first start off on social media. They think that they're going to be judged for something. Some people might not like the content. They might get criticised if you're saying something wrong or something like that. And you second question yourself what you're putting out there. Whereas I was very early on. I was just like, I'm putting this out whether people like it or not, and I'm going to get some people that like it and a lot of people that won't like it. But it's all going in the right direction. And so that was my first blog, and then I started like a combat conditioning blog, and then I started the Boxing Science website. And so I was very forward thinking in the kind of the land of social media in terms of promoting the content. And I knew that with the difficulties of getting people in for sessions and getting people in for testing, talking to coaches and everything like that, it was going to be very hard to get everybody, to get enough boxers involved to make it a full-time job for me, because I wanted to work in boxing so much. And but I weren't going to work with enough athletes. So the only way to support that is to build an online business where you're going to be selling programs. And for the first 2 years of Boxing Science being online, we didn't sell one program. All we were focused on was growing as a business, growing up the audience to create that filter to then sell the online programs. So I've always been really forward thinking with social media, and as well in terms of Boxing Science, we know that most boxing coaches and most boxers as athletes aren't going to be picking up a sports science research article and reading it. They're going to consume their kind of learnings from social media, from blog articles, something that is easy to digest, videos, photos, infographics, stuff like that. Very easy to understand and easy to apply as well. So with social media, we thought for us to have the biggest impact on the sport, we need to be putting it out across different platforms. And then obviously, because we keep posting quality content, we're learning all the time what works, what doesn't work. We invest into videography and graphic design to make sure that it's high quality content, and then it just started growing. It's just started growing, and especially over the last year, I started lockdown. I'll get into a really good amount to be honest. I were around about 35,000 at the about March 2020. And then
what? Sorry.
Instagram followers.
Yeah.
So really, I was quite happy with where we were at, but still trying to grow. And then over the last 18 months, it's gone mad. It's gone absolutely mad because putting out free content, people wanting to do workouts at home, and it's gone from 35,000 to 150,000 within 18 months. So that has it's had a massive impact on the business, which has put us in a position to invest into the performance centre.
Great. So is that where you directly? That was the thinking behind that. That was one of my questions. Actually, to see that the performance centre looks amazing.
Yeah,
we're delighted to be on your wall as well, which is a privilege for us. But in terms of telling that, how was that directly related to that increase of followers, but I guess subscriptions for the programs you were doing?
Yeah. We was based at the university, but we was never like an official product of the university. I wasn't a permanent member of staff. So basically, Boxing Science was a separate kind of company, but was based at Sheffield University. When COVID hit, I lost obviously all my income from the boxers, from the athletes. I lost all my income from I was at England Golf at that time as well. They paused the contract, but they started it back up. But at the end of March 2020 and April 2020, literally all my coaching went. So I had to make something happen. So I could either sit down on my backside and watch Tiger King or whatever everybody else was watching. I did actually watch Tiger King, but watching countless hours of Netflix and whatever, or can do some, or I can go and make it happen. And I work really hard and doing online programs, doing special deals for people all over the world, and the revenue went big, and it got to, I'd say about this time last year, where I was just a bit like, right, I think we could do it. And there was opportunities like kind of with grants and loans and stuff like that. And without going into too much detail about that, we got a pocket of funding where it was like, right, it's now or never. There's never going to be a better opportunity to do it. There's offices that aren't being occupied because people have decided to work from home. We've got this pot of funding. There's revenues going up. It was going to be a big risk to do it, but also I was a bit like, when am I going to go back into the university? As it stands, I still wouldn't be there now. I'd still be training athletes out of boxing gyms. So a bit like, right, it was always in my mind to set up on our own, because obviously we have the freedom. We can put whatever we want on the walls. We can put whatever kit in. We can work at any time. So it was always in my mindset. But I think that was about 2-3 years down the line, maybe even 5 years down the line. And it always scared me to get a facility with the overheads and everything like that. But as it got to that point during the pandemic, where we got this pot of funding, revenues increase, we're not going to get back into the university anytime soon. I just thought, now's the time to do it, now or never. And it's a risk when you do it, and I've had a few sleepless nights, but best decision I've ever made. And to be honest, like, it's a lot better than I ever imagined. And what was holding us back for so many years and not going elsewhere is because our name is Boxing Science. So we need to make sure that we've got the facilities that fit our name. We could have left years ago and got a few dumbbells, barbells, and be able to train athletes like that, go and do some track sessions. I'll be able to train boxers like that. I did it during the lockdown. But we want to fit to our name. We want to do the research. We want to do the testing. We want to do an evidence-based training program. So it always held us back because we wanted to get a facility like this. And I never imagined to get a facility like this. We've got every piece of equipment that we could want. We're providing our athletes with the best possible facilities to get the most out of them. So yeah, very happy, very proud, But once the gym floor got put in, all the equipment got put in, and everybody were patting me on the back and congratulating me. I think there was one person that phoned me up, an SC colleague of mine, and he just went, right, it's a lot of hard work, but I'm sure that you'll be able to do it. And I sent him a voice note back, and I just said, you're the only person that said that, but I fully know that all I've said to my missus is said, the hard work starts now. So it was the hard work getting to this point, the hard work putting all the kit in, saving up all the money to invest it. But soon as that ribbon's been cut on the gym, I was just like, right, this is where the hard work starts.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, buzzing with it, and we're looking forward to the future to see what we can do.
Yeah. Yeah, do you have any plans around that? And just before you answer that one, like we do a lot of work with Ian Gatt as well, who's also based in Sheffield. Is there any benefit, do you think, of having that the Olympic team, GB Boxing, based so close, or is that completely separate?
It's completely separate because they've got like top strength conditioning coaches, physiotherapists, nutritionists, working at the very top level. So their athletes don't need us. But what is really good is that we can collaborate on research, on developing educational resources. So we've had Ian Gatt do a fantastic workshop on our boxing science membership on the hands and wrists for boxing. It's been quite busy recently with AJ and GB Boxing, but we said that we'd have to do something else as well. Gary Hutt, who's the strength conditioning coach, he contributed quite a lot to our free seminars that we put on during COVID. Mark Ellison is always a great soundboard for our like nutrition interventions and everything like that. I had a good chat around like kind of female athletes with him, because we've only worked with a handful of female athletes and stuff, so we've been on the phone to him. So it's great that we've got them connections. There's nothing set in stone, but always bouncing off ideas between us. We gain something from them, they gain something from us. So yeah, it's definitely, Sheffield is a great city to be in terms of boxing. That's probably something that I should have mentioned at the start. When envisaging working in boxing, I wasn't in a remote town with one boxing club. I was in Sheffield. That is like, I think it's the third biggest boxing city in the UK, behind Liverpool and Hull in terms of like kind of the ratio from people to gyms. There's 13 amateur boxing clubs. There's the famous Ingle gym. There's EIS that hosts GB Boxing. There's loads of opportunities for me in boxing science based in Sheffield. So location played a massive factor in that. So yeah, Sheffield's a great place for boxing. It's not only that, it's like, what other things are here? I was saying it the other day, there's Fight Label who do the training shorts the training shorts, the boxing shorts and wear when they go into the gym. There's Empire Pro Tape that do the tape for all the boxers all over the world. Like even Conor McGregor in the UFC were using it as well. So it's a fantastic city to be in if you're keen for getting involved in boxing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So how do you find like the athletes coming up? Do they come and stay there? Like, so you've got Fabio Wardley, you've got various other Jordan Gill. Like, do they all come and stay in Sheffield, or are they like they travel in for you, or how does that work when they've got a camp?
Yeah, so Jordan Lerone and Hope Price, they train with Dave Colwell, who's based in Rotherham. Hope is actually from Leeds, so he travels in. Lerone and Jordan live down south, so they travel up to train with Dave. Dave, I've got a great relationship with him. I've worked with a handful of his fighters over the years, and he basically, if he's working with a new boxer, he'll get on the phone to me and say, right, do you want to do his strength conditioning? So I've got a fantastic relationship with him. So they come up, they train with Dave, and then obviously then they train. they train with us. So they're in like, they come up for the full week, and then they go home at weekends. People like Fabio, he comes up like every third week or something like that during this camp. And I do a remote training program with him. So I've been training him for about a year, and I've only met him once, and I've got a pretty good relationship with Fabio. I get on with him well. And when I saw him at the start of this camp, I was just like, I find it so weird that I've only ever met him once, because I've had like long chats with him on phone and everything like that. But now we've got the performance centre. He's able to come up, stay overnight, and then go back the next day, and we get about 2 or 3 sessions in. The beauty of the performance centre is that it's based just north of Sheffield, so it's Barnsley, and it's a place called Tankersley, which is, if anybody's watching and they know the area, it's basically the main roundabout when you come off Woodhead Pass, if you're going from Manchester to Sheffield, and it's about 2 minutes away from the M1. So it's very, very easy access. If you're going from Manchester, it's an hour. Going from Leeds, it's about 30 minutes. If you're going from Derby, which is one of our boxers, Sandy Ryan, she's travelling in from Derby 3 times a week. It's taking her about 45 minutes to get in. So really, it's opened the doors to quite a few different boxers that are wanting to come in, wanting to either come up for training or testing. It's really accessible to them because it's just off the motorway. But also, we've got a couple of hotels that we've got Premier Inn next door. So it's very, very convenient for athletes if they're wanting to come in and learn a little bit about themselves and learn a little bit about training as well.
Mm. When you get an athlete in, to say Dave Cole gives you a shout and says, right, you athlete, do you, when you're looking at them, do you get excited if you look at them and just think, wow, I can just see so much untapped potential there? Or is that something that you're looking at, or do you have objective measures that I'm sure you don't have objective measures, but what do you look at and think, right, I can really improve upon this person?
Yeah, well, obviously it differs from each individual. I'm very fortunate to be working with the boxers that I'm working with at the minute. They're very highly motivated. They've got something that can't be trained, and having that kind of that X factor to get into the ring. They've been high achievers as amateurs or professionals. So I'm always excited working with like the athletes that I've got now. Like, so excited to work with. When I do the testing with them, I get excited either way, whether they're rubbish or good. Because like, if they're rubbish, I think I can have a big impact on them. If they're good and give good scores, I'm thinking, right, I can progress them on quite quickly. So an example would be with Lerone. He got very good genetics. He had good, solid training foundation when he came to us, so he could deadlift. He could move pretty well. He was a ready-made athlete, ready for me to push on and take on to the next level. His jump height was really good. He was explosive, so I know that he's going to excel in them explosive exercises. So with that, I was just like, right, I've got somebody that's got them foundations there and is ready to go, so I can advance really quickly. And then you have somebody like Terry Harper, who you can see is genetically really good, but has not done much strength conditioning. So you can see, like, right there, that you're going to have a massive impact on this athlete. And as well, from a conditioning point of view, she's built like a sprinter, and how she's actually built, and actually speed is really, really good when she does acceleration mechanics and everything like that. She's brilliant. But as an athlete, all she's been doing is kind of long distance runs. When she does sprints, what we define as sprints is it's like a light jog to us. I'm only kidding, but like it's not the high intensity sprints what we normally put in. So with her, I was just like, right, I'm going to train her like a sprinter in terms of like a conditioning and everything. So doing very short bursts, working towards high lactates to unlock that high intensity performance potential. So when she's like, when I watched her in the fight with Tasha Jonas, I thought, because going into that fight, a lot of people expected Terry Harper to just wipe the floor with Tasha Jonas. And Tasha Jonas were a huge underdog going into that fight. I knew it was going to be a tough fight because Tasha's really good boxer. She's experienced. She lost one fight going into that, but she looks a lot better when she's been building back up. But with Terry in that fight, she showed that she's technically good enough and that she had the heart to go to when she got dragged into a bit of a war. And I watched that fight and I was just like, I'd love to work with her. Because I could see that if she got physically stronger and if she could deal with that high intensities, she'd take her boxing performance up another level. She's already really, really good and she's achieved a lot for such a young lady, but she's she's just missing that little bit of strength, bit of power, and being able to work at them high intensities. And she showed that she's got the minerals in that fight in terms of a technique, a technical awareness, and having that heart and desire. And what we had is something, and we've got it on the wall here, massive things that take no talent. It takes no talent to do a deadlift. It takes no talent to follow a program appropriately. It takes no talent to follow a nutrition plan. It just takes that dedication and that grit. And the athletes that I work with in here have that. So they're going to add 5, 10, maybe even 20% to their performance, as they're improving as boxers at the same time. So yeah, I'll get excited either way, as long as they have the right attitude and the right desire for the sport. Yeah, I get excited.
And then in terms of that, so you get athletes that are, say, haven't got the endurance but are more explosive. How do you establish what you want to work on? Are you looking to do a well-rounded session of working on all of those, or do you try and focus on more endurance or more explosive power?
We normally go for what we normally do. We do a lactate profile, so that's a test on the treadmill. We start at around about 10 kilometers an hour. We do 3 minutes on, 1 minute off, and after each 3 minutes, we put up the speed by 1 kilometer an hour. And in between the interval, we take their RPE, so how hard they find it, at a scale of 1 to 10. We take the heart rate, and we take the lactate, the blood lactate. So this indicates kind of like muscular acidosis based on blood lactate. So from that, we can see whether an athlete is more endurance based or they're more kind of high intensity based. And what we normally see is that an athlete is more endurance based. So what we look at, and I lean on Alan's expertise for a lot of this, but over the years, over the many lactate profiles that I've seen and the interventions I put in, I can kind of identify, like, this is what this person needs to work on. But sometimes I just go, Alan, what does this person need to work on here, and use him as a soundboard. But yeah, so from their lactate profile, we can see exactly what they need to work on. In 9 times out of 10, it's going to be something that we call muscle buffering capacity, which is basically their ability to work at high lactates, but be able to control that. So we try and get them between 10 and 12 millimole per litre of blood lactate, and basically train their muscle buffering capacity. So then they're able to work at high intensities without that lactate accumulation. And then it just depends on how long the camp is, how old the athlete is. So a prime example would be recently we had a 17-year-old athlete come in, and their lactate profile literally was flat. So that showed to me that it wasn't producing enough lactate to be able to push on to high intensities. And with him, there's a lot of time where we can transform him into a high intensity athlete. Whereas when I've seen that kind of profile before is when I worked with Jamie and Gavin McDonnell, the twin brothers that are fantastic. They're so fit, but only fit for kind of endurance. You know, they'd be fantastic at a 10K race, but if you put them on a 30-second maximal sprint, they wouldn't be able to reach them levels. So if they was at the time they were 32, 33 years old, going to an important time in their career where they needed to win these big title fights. So I wasn't going to go to them, right, we're going to do these 30-second max out sprints to try and transform you into a high intensity athlete, when really that could take anywhere between 3 and 5 years, when really they win the big title fights there. So in that instance, I would like, right, we've got to play to their strengths. So when it comes to testing, whether that's lactate profile or jumping or doing the landmine punch throw or whatever, we can either work on their areas for improvement, or we can make their strengths into super strengths. You know, not every athlete's going to be perfect, but if we play to their strengths and make them into super strengths, and then they can take that into a fight. So with Jamie and Gav, what we did was not train them necessarily as endurance athletes, but train them on longer intervals. So you 4 minutes on, 2 minutes off, 6 minutes on, 2 minutes off, working in that red zone, but not working to really high intensities, high lactates. And with Gavin, it really showed in his fight against Yafai in 2018. Did 12 rounds, and the first 6 rounds was quite tight, and then he just pulled away. And the last 6, it looked phenomenally fit. So yeah, so that's what we do. It's not a one size fits all approach. We have on our wall the blueprint to elite performance. The blueprint is there, but for these high performing athletes, we've got to swap and change what route they're going to go down. Are we going to work with them for 5 years where we can transform them into a certain type of athlete, or we're going to work with them for 10 weeks where they've got a world title fight and we need to get them in the best possible shape? So we're going to work towards their strengths.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, because it's from like the layperson, you'll look at, say, the heavyweights at the moment. You've got Fury, Joshua, Andy Ruiz, and Wilder, all completely different looking fighters.
Yeah.
Do you look at those sort of people and I guess you're always looking at them thinking, God, I'd do this, and this. Is that something that you're doing when you're looking at these type of fighters?
Yeah. Like for Wilder, you'd look at him putting on some mass, which he tried to do in the last fight, but he put it on too top heavy. So you wouldn't want to do that, because then he'd end up losing his speed. Also, you don't want to put on too much mass too soon. Also, he probably needs to quicken up his feet a little bit. So you'd be doing some reactive training, doing some footwork stuff. There's loads of things that you think that you do with this athlete, but that's from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
You can only really fully get a good understanding when you're doing testing, chatting to the athlete and everything like that. So yeah, I do have a look at athletes, but there's except from, like I said, that one time with Terry, where I was looking and thinking, so the only reason why I was like that with Terry is because I knew her before. I knew her as a junior athlete, and I've seen her around shows and stuff like that. I know she's a nice person and everything like that. I know I'll work her. So that's why we're like, right, I really like to work with Terry, but I never like look at, it's all these superstars and stuff like that and go, right, I'd really want to work with them, because you don't know what they're like as people. You don't know what they like to work with and everything like that. I get excited by working with good people and good workers, whether they're working towards a world title or an amateur boxing title. I'm not working with many amateur boxers at the moment because based off the pandemic and where we're positioned. But just before the pandemic, I was going to Skeller Working Man's Club in Doncaster, waiting for one of my amateur boxers 11 o'clock at night, when I trained boxers from 7 o'clock through to 7 o'clock in the morning through to 6 o'clock in evening. And then I went straight from there to the Working Men's Club. And I'm like, oh, what time are you on then? Because he got weighed in at 7. It says, oh, I'm on last. So mainly on amateur shows, that can be like anything from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. He actually got in the ring at 11 o'clock. So, but I was there because I trained him. He's an amateur boxer, and he was going for what was his goal, and he was working really hard for that. So I get passionate about that. So yeah, so even though it'd be nice to work with somebody that is really at that top level, I've been there, I've ticked off that box. I'd only want to be up at that world level now if it's somebody that I really care about and want to see succeed. But I'm sure that these boxers that I'm working with now, Lerone Richards just won a European title in style. Jordan Gill is in a fantastic position. He's a really hard worker. Got Hope Price. He's only had 4 bouts, but he's won everything you could imagine as an amateur boxer. Terry's going to go. She's world champion now, but I think that she'll clean up in multiple divisions. Sandy Ryan, Fabio Wardley, we've got Callum Bearder. We've got many great boxers that are going to go on and achieve great things. So it's exciting, and they're great people to work with too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, I could ask you loads of questions, but I won't keep doing that because it takes ages. But as you mentioned, Pacquiao, what do you think of his chances against Spence?
It's a tough one. Like with Pacquiao, and I don't want to say anything. Don't know. Yeah, I just find it a little bit suspicious with Pacquiao, with how he's aged, his sketchy past with like drug testing, and everything like that. So it depends on what drug testing's in place. That's all I'm going to say.
Right.
Because I've said it on record before where it's been sketchy. Like he's never failed a test. He's never failed a drug test. So I can't say that he's a cheat. But there's been things in the past where he's refusing to fight Mayweather because he didn't want the blood taken. When he boxed Lucas Matisse in the Philippines, he looked an absolute beast, and there were no VADA testing. Now, how can you box for a world title, or I think it were interim world title or something like that, or any title at any level, and not have drug testing in place? So I don't know what the drug testing is in place. If there's minimal drug testing, then it could be a really good fight. But if there's a lot of drug testing, then I think that Spence will win in convincing fashion, maybe knockout.
For Spence,
bet you weren't expecting that.
I wasn't. No. You certainly don't hold back. That's good to get that.
Yeah.
And then, I'll ask you finally, just because you mentioned Mayweather as well. What do you make of like these crossover fights with YouTubers and like the Logan Paul Mayweather fight? What are your thoughts on those things?
Listen, you only have one life and a short and a window to make yourself a good living. So if these athletes want to go out there and make a living in that kind of way, then albeit go and do it. If he wants to run around with Mayweather in the ring for 8 rounds like he did, and make a load of money and people wanting to pay it, then do it. But I don't believe, like, as long as they're not ripping off people, calling it exhibition and stuff like that. It's exhibition. People shouldn't be thinking that they're going to go out there and try and knock each other out or whatever. People were like disappointed at the end of the fight. I'm just like, well, it was an exhibition. Of course, we're just going to run around. But it's happened in the past when Muhammad Ali had exhibition bouts. So it's something that's going to something that's happened before, and it's going to keep happening. But like, I think it's just thrown into new light because these YouTube boxers are actually, making more money than actual boxers.
Yeah.
And a lot of boxers can get bitter about that. And I do feel for boxers because it's a hard sport and it's a hard sport to make money. But they should also take a lesson from it. Invest into creating yourself a social media platform, so then you could, making that kind of money. You've got the talent and the skills. If you've got invest into a team behind you to get your social media up and have a videographer and everything like that, then your value will go up. It's the way that the world works now. Everybody's looking at numbers. Somebody that's doing it really well and has got a mix between the two is Conor Benn. Anthony Joshua, obviously, he's like unbelievable and really at the top of the sport, but he owns all his own media. He does his own YouTube channel and everything like that. And boxers might stop themselves from doing it because they might feel like they're getting judged. But there'll be plenty of people that don't like Conor Benn's content, but there's plenty of people that do. And look where Conor Benn is now. He's signed his own deal with DAZN and Matchroom Boxing. He's headlining shows. They're saying that he's going to be the next superstar in boxing. He's got a good name behind him, but he's got a character as well. He's got a character, and he's gone the extra mile to create that platform for himself. So really, I think that boxing should be taking note of these YouTube boxers. But one thing that I don't like is that they say that they're the best in the world, that they beat Canelo, stuff like that. That's something that I don't like because that is disrespecting the sport.
Yeah. Well, Jake Paul he's making a lot of waves, isn't he? So that is.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you want to do.
When they're disrespecting fighters like this thing with Conor McGregor, and he's got the chain and his sleep and stuff like that. If he spent 10 seconds in a cage with Conor McGregor, see what necklace that Conor McGregor could make of Jake Paul. You know what I mean? So it's one of them, innit? It's one of them. There's pros and cons to everything. I think that a lot of people can get annoyed with them, and I get annoyed with them sometimes. But I see that they're making a living, and they're showing that boxers that if they build the right platform, then they can make a bigger profile for themselves and make some more money. So
yeah, absolutely. And this is genuinely the last one. Any remarks around Canelo?
Well, obviously, he's in terms of testing and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, obviously there is, because he's failed the test before, but then he's passed every test since. I've never heard of him having any sort of issue in terms of like testing. Whereas like obviously Pacquiao has, Pacquiao's fought and not been tested. And what Canelo is doing is not out of the question. It's in his prime. It's got brilliant boxing abilities, whereas Pacquiao's 42 years old. So that's when the question mark. And he's gone from light flyweight to light middleweight in his career.
Yeah.
And I've seen flyweights in here, and there's no way that they could deal with a light middleweight, no matter how much strength conditioning that they're doing. So yeah. So that's my main thing about Pacquiao. I don't ever like saying like going on record and saying that they've cheated and stuff like that. But it just makes me wonder when they do something like that. And it's not just me; it's many other people as well. And then with Canelo, he's failed that test, but it were for a trace. Now this is my problem with drug testing is that if a trace comes up, then sometimes they'll flash it up, but then go, oh, but it wasn't enough to have an impact on his performance. So if he's got it from Mexican meat, then it'd only show up as a trace, and it wouldn't have a massive impact on his performance. Why isn't that shown in terms of like their testing protocols, what can get you banned and what can't? But then obviously you have the problem with microdosing and stuff like that people do. So it's what, like with that testing, it's like if it's a trace and you don't think that can have an impact on the sport, then why is he being tarnished for the rest of his career?
Yeah.
No, what I mean. So I'm not saying that it's one rule for one and one rule for another. I think that there should be a fine line of, right, for this drug this amount, for this drug this amount, and everything like that. But you know, my expertise on drug testing is very, very minimal. It's just an opinion from outside looking in. So I don't look at drug testing from a kind of S&C point of view, because my job is to get them stronger and to get them fitter. The nutritionist is the one that looks at the supplements and to make sure that they're having informed sport, batch tested supplements. They're not putting anything in the body that they shouldn't. So yes, I'm saying this, but there's people that are much cleverer than me, investing a lot of time in creating these rules. The one thing with boxing is that nobody can fully ban you. Jarrell Miller, that got done, I think, for about 3-4 different drugs when he was supposed to box Anthony Joshua. He got, I don't think he got banned because he wasn't a licensed boxer in the state of New York. So it was a loophole in the system. But then he didn't box, and then he's ended up he ended up failing another test. I don't know whether he's been banned. You know, the in UK, there's been a boxer that's tested positive for cocaine. I don't know whether what the ins and outs of it are, but he's got banned for 4 years. And then you've got people that are failing drug tests in the US that are performance enhancing drugs, and they're getting banned for 6 months.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Doesn't make sense, does it? So that, but it's there. It's either Nevada Athletic Commission for boxers that are fighting in Las Vegas, New York. There's all different boxing commissions. So when I went to Chicago with Gavin McDonnell, we were dealing with the Chicago Boxing Commission, and there was a set amount of rules on them, not the IBF, WBA, the boxing organizations. There wasn't an American boxing organization where you've got to, when you're traveling abroad, you've got to look at what the rules are for each state. So when it comes to drug testing, it just, if you test positive in Chicago, you might just be banned in Chicago. That's it.
Yeah,
You
strange, isn't it?
And then you could box in US. You could box in New York if you wanted to. If they're willing to give you a license, they could give you a license. So with UK fighters, I think it's fantastic that we've got UCAD because they've got a strong testing protocol. I'll tell you one more story. Before we go. But they got a very legit testing protocol. They test all the fighters, championship fighters, after the fight, and they come and knock on your door at random times. And also they've got the right procedures in place to ban. So UK fighters won't want to ever try the luck, whereas like US fighters, they've got the opportunity to try the luck a little bit. In Japan, in a land where you think technology is advanced and everything like that, they tried to get Jamie peeing in a paper cup for the testing, whereas like UCAD, you've got sample A, sample B, locked, twist, locked, everything, signed, sealed, delivered. Trying to get him to pee in a paper cup. And we were just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like that? Like Jamie obviously would just suffered a bad defeat. So he wasn't thinking. He was just like, all right. We were all like talking. Next minute, we can see Jamie just about to pee in this paper cup, and we're just like, whoa, stop right there. Like, we need something better than this. So it's mad. So you wonder what happens in these other countries. So yeah, we should be appreciating UCAD, definitely.
What happened with that then? Did you find a proper cup or what?
It was like some sort of weird container. It looked like a bit of an urn, like a weird like vacuumed container.
Yeah,
weird.
That was the Louis fight, wasn't it? That was...
Yeah. So yeah. Weird and wonderful sport, boxing. Often frustrating. As a fan, as a coach, and as a friend to these boxers as well. But you know what? When it's good, it's great. So that's why I work in it, and it has a massive impact on people's lives. So
yeah, no, it's great. Well, your stuff all looks great. We're genuinely really excited to come over and see your centre. So I appreciate it. Again, I've gone on way longer than I normally do, but I've got loads of things that I'll ask you when I come in. I'll ask you those ones. So
yeah.
Great. I really appreciate your time, Danny, and well done with the centre. And we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, cheers, Andy.